Welcome to the news in details. Now today at Urugwiro village, President Paul Kagame received a delegation from Zimbabwe led by Honorable Frederick Musiwa Makamuri Shave, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, who are in Kigali to attend the Rwanda-Zimbabwe Trade and Investment Conference. The Development and Promotion Organization of Zimbabwe, ZimTrade, says that one of its priorities is for Rwanda to be one of the 10 countries Zimbabwe exports products to. Now, in the cooperation agreement signed between Rwanda and Zimbabwe, the Rwanda Development Board says the agreements entail various fields from which Rwanda will benefit, including technology, mining, among others.
Cooperation in technology, tourism, agriculture, environmental protection, close private sector cooperation on both sides are some of the agreements signed between Rwanda and Zimbabwe. In the last 2 years, Rwanda has exported goods worth $113,000 to Zimbabwe, while Zimbabwe has exported goods worth almost 16 million Rwanda francs to Rwanda. The CEO of ZimTrade, Alan Majuru, says the agreements signed will enable the country to attain their goal of increasing their exports to Rwanda.
And if you look at Zimbabwe, the top 10 trading partners, Rwanda is not there. So this is the reason why we are here. Without mentioning figures, for me, what I would like to see going towards the future is Rwanda being in the top 10 of our export destinations going towards the future. So this is where we start. So we are not just signing MOUs for them to gather dust, but we're signing MOUs for them to be implemented.
The Deputy CEO of the Rwanda Development Board says that the Rwandan private sector should make significant strides in generating investment opportunities in Zimbabwe, as the signed agreement facilitates that.
People should
be able to go to Zimbabwe and invest in mining, in the energy sector or technology. They can invest in financial services as well as the food industry.
Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, accompanied by his Zimbabwean counterpart, Ambassador Frederick Shava, also attended the official opening ceremony of the Zimbabwean embassy in Kigali. Rwanda's ambassador to Zimbabwe has residence in Harare. Zimbabwe's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Ambassador Frederick Shava, says the agreements signed will enable both countries to expand their trade, especially since the market is available on both sides.
We have a responsibility and a duty to improve the figures between our two countries so that we come to a meaningful and respectable balance of trade as we engage with each other. I strongly believe that through cooperation we can leverage on the huge but latent potential in both countries to grow domestic industries and subsequently increase investment and trade between ourselves.
Dr. Vincent Biruta pointed out that the continued expansion of investment between Rwanda and Zimbabwe stems from strong and good bilateral relations between the two countries, and that the benefits of this relationship will continue.
These kind of conferences are also a new approach to build market linkages, such as the harnessing of online promotion and networking. I would further like to take this opportunity to encourage all actors, especially from the private sectors in both our two countries, to take advantage of the available tools for development and sustainable growth in Africa, such as the AfCFTA.
In the next 3 days, Rwandan and Zimbabwean investors and the private sector will continue to exchange views on how to make trade and investment more profitable for both countries and increase the amount of exports, especially on the continent. Reporting for RTV News, Gloria Mutisi.
Thank you, Gloria, for that report. Now, from the 2021-2022 school year, some high schools will start teaching nursing and midwifery courses. Now, the Ministry of Education says the program has been under review for some time in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, which will help in the provision of health services. Our colleague Jean-Pierre Kagabo spoke on phone with Minister of State for Primary and Secondary School Education in the Ministry of Education, Twagirayezu Gaspar. Now, the Rwanda Agriculture Board has announced that they have taken action by increasing livestock feed in order to address the shortage of milk supply during the dry season. Gabi Muvunyi reports.
The milk shortage, forcing a hike in prices in both processed and non-processed milk, has been ongoing for the past 2 months across the country and especially in Kigali city. Traders and consumers say that in addition to the hike in prices, there are outlets that are completely out of milk. You cannot find Inyanje milk anywhere. The prices started hiking like 2 weeks ago. That's when the shortage began. We got milk on Thursday, and before that it was a week that we last got milk, and we had already paid for it. The road from Kigali city to Gicumbi district, where milk is usually transported to Kigali, business has remained the same for the taxi bicycles that transport milk up and down the road. On the other hand, both collectors and breeders agreed that there is a decline in milk production during this dry season. The dry season has run for a long period this time, so there's no grass and no water. And this has been a problem that has affected the milk supply. A farmer that would bring 5 liters is now bringing 2 liters. Because of the feed they are on, it's causing less supply of milk. The Rwanda Agriculture Board explains that during the dry season, when the grass is dried up and there's no water, these are some of the contributors to the decline in milk supply. The Deputy Director General in charge of Animal Resources, Research and Technology Transfer at RAB says people should not be discouraged because there is a short-term and long-term strategy aimed at resolving this issue. We want to work on increasing the livestock fields. Secondly, we want to work with farmers so that we can store the feed at least 3 times a year rather than the once a year we used to. We also want to work on increasing the milk one cow can produce by improving what they eat. And we encourage the breeders to also collect rainwater. The issue of declining milk production has not been an issue for some time, but this year the industry has gone through a period of lean cows and the prices of the market which has doubled. RAB estimates that a Rwandan drinks at least 75 liters of milk per year, while the target is that a Rwandan should drink approximately 250 liters per year. Gabi Muvunyi, reporting for RTV News.
In a joint press conference with the Rwanda National Police, youth volunteers and various agencies, the Minister of Local Government, Gatabazi Jean-Marie Vianney, said that gender-based violence and child abuse would be eradicated if all stakeholders would join forces. Some journalists and youth volunteers say that the issue of gender-based violence and child abuse needs to be addressed and that sharing information on such crimes would eradicate them. On one hand, however, they say that there are some amendments to be made in the implementation of some of the laws that protect the victim.
This is a serious issue, and that's why we have come to talk about it. It has to be dealt with and eradicated. One of the causes is the negligence from parents, as some don't play their part, and also some institutions mostly focus on counseling or educating girls who are victims of these sexual abuse acts. And those that do the crimes, which in most cases are men, are not educated or addressed. So we want the campaign to involve men as well.
Inspector General of Rwanda National Police, IGP Dan Munyuza, commends the media for its role in the fight against gender-based violence and say that the Rwanda National Police is preparing for such talks as it is time to take more action to eradicate it.
The Rwanda National Police greatly appreciates the role of journalists. We should often meet with them, and not just for work purposes, but also to thank them.
The Minister of Local Government, Gatabazi Jean-Marie Vianney, said that the media should focus on in-depth reports on the crime and also highlight the actions that were taken to prevent it from happening again. He added that cooperation from all stakeholders is needed in the fight against gender-based violence and child abuse.
We want journalists to carry out investigative articles when it comes to these crimes and not just take pictures and rush to write a story about violence. They should follow up as well to make sure that those victims get justice. If all the youth that is present here today could agree to work hand in hand with us to follow up with these crimes, there would be no more of them.
From January to August this year, there were 3,877 raped children and 954 raped women and girls and 2,350 victims of gender-based violence. The National Council for Science and Technology has donated 2 robots to Nyarugunga Healthcare Center that will be used in the campaign to contain the COVID-19 pandemic and to encourage the members of the public to get vaccinated. Now, the 2 robots are named James and Pepper. The robots will broadcast messages in Kinyarwanda, English and French, urging members of the public to comply with all the COVID-19 guidelines and to remind people to get vaccinated. Now, the Executive Secretary of Nyarugunga Sector in Kicukiro District says this is a very supportive initiative.
Where we are as a country now, it is important for Rwandans to see how developed we are by the use of technology we are using to date.
Now, the Executive Secretary of the National Council for Science and Technology, Dr. Mutimura Eugene, says this is one of the top state-of-art technology they have at the health center.
The robots will help in giving appointments to avoid lines and delays, and will also help in showing the patients where to go. The robots will also remind the people on the COVID-19 guidelines. We are happy and will continue to work with the government to fight this pandemic.
The 2 robots are part of a 4-year project worth 150 million, which will be used for various programs at the Nyarugunga Health Center, and CST has already donated more than 17 billion Rwandan francs towards such technology projects. Now, a cross-section of people with disabilities say they have difficulty accessing medical services, especially those related to HIV prevention, and are called upon service providers in this field to make it easier for them. Now, officials from the umbrella of organizations of persons with disabilities in the fight against HIV/AIDS and for health promotion says there are a wide range of issues that need to be solved in this regard, such as inadequate training, hospitals that don't cater for people with disabilities, among others, and that immediate action should be taken. This comes as while various stakeholders in the fight against HIV/AIDS came together for a one-day meeting where they discussed the progress made and agreed to continue the hard work.
It's not an easy goal, and we will continue working with our partners, especially in fighting against HIV, as we have a goal to eliminate HIV by 2030 and reducing new infections. We will not leave the people with disabilities behind. All the measures we take in the fight against HIV include easing access to these services for the people with disabilities.
Well, Dr. Galikan Gwabisira from the Rwanda Biomedical Center says that Rwanda committed to eliminate all the barriers that hinder people with disabilities to access such services by 2030. Now, moving on, some of those who have been empowered through vocational training and provided for with basic materials say that changing attitudes is one of the key factors that have made them a pride in their community. In Munyaga sector in Rwamagana district, 100 women who were already below the poverty line are now happy and smiling due to the change of lifestyle, thanks to what they have learned through vocational training. According to the Rwamagana district officials. These women who have been trained are closely followed up to ensure that they keep thriving. Matilda Kaitesi, coordinator, explained that the key to helping women in the underprivileged ranks is to be the first to help change attitudes, now that women's empowerment reaches many when done right. As part of the country's plan to accelerate development, the government has set a target of creating 1.5 million jobs.